we at least have it recorded and we can get started. Since it's just the three of us, you are more than welcome if you have a question when I'm talking about a topic or whatever it might be. You are more than welcome to unmute yourself and ask any questions that you might have. So yeah, I'll go ahead and get started. If you all could, though, just unmute yourself and say your name, because you guys are both serving in different parts of the state. So if you are able to unmute yourself, just introduce yourself, where you are serving, and you both are, Raven is a second-year member. She served in Michigan. And then just tell us a place you would like to go on vacation to.
I'm Raven Chevali. I'm working at Shelter of Hope, helping out in the 5 district, but I do a little bit of helping out all over Eastern Kentucky. You said what we would do for a vacation.
Yeah.
I want to see a rainforest, and my kids like to play in the rain, so I think we'd head that direction.
That's cool. That's really neat. What about you, Wes?
I'm Wes Gibson. I work for Paducah Alliance of Neighbors here in Paducah, Kentucky, and all that. And where I would like to go for a vacation. To be honest with you, I don't know.
I know. I picked Hawaii. I like being at the beach. I've heard cool things about Hawaii, so I thought that would be a very long trip, but that would be neat if I ever got to go there. So, thank you.
I ain't been on a vacation since 2018 when my daughter passed away. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Well, as you guys can see, Wes is serving in the western part of the state, and Raven, you are serving in Ashland, like you said, the 5 area, and also other parts kind of in the eastern Kentucky area. So you guys are basically on the opposite ends of the state, which is cool and just kind of shows you that we do partner with organizations spread out across the whole state. And I'm gonna go on to the next. I lost my little box that shows if people have joined the call. So if others have joined the call,
one.
Huh?
We got a new one. It says Carissa Walker McQuaid.
Yeah, Carissa, thanks for joining.
No problem. I'm sorry, I forgot about it. Chris had to remind me to join.
That's okay. If you would like to, I don't know where my little box went where it shows like the participants. So if you could, though, just introduce yourself, where you are serving, and a dream vacation, somewhere you would like to go.
Okay, I am Carissa Walker McQuaid. I'm a senior at Ohio University Southern. I'm serving at Shelter of Hope in Ashland, Kentucky. I am the new outreach counselor, and my dream vacation would probably be to go to like Greece or somewhere out of the country.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you. Like I'm recording this as well, but since you'd hopped on, basically, it's a small group, so if you have any questions, feel free to just unmute yourself and ask while bother me. So we'll keep ourselves muted, and then again, if anything comes up and you have a question, feel free to unmute and ask. I'm gonna skip that. Something that we like to talk about is just how to pronounce AmeriCorps. So this is just a fun little picture, but we do pronounce it AmeriCorps, so kind of like Apple Corps, Peace Corps. It's not AmeriCorps. We are alive and well, and so we just like to kind of throw that out there early on into a person's year of service. This kind of breaks down the Homes for All program, and then the two different types of AmeriCorps programs that we manage and operate across the state. So the Homes for All program, our primary focus is to address the affordable housing crisis through housing development, repair, and provisions to housing and homeless services. AmeriCorps is a national service program that does provide thousands of Americans with the opportunity to give back to their communities. And another branch of AmeriCorps is VISTA. And so VISTA stands for Volunteers in Service to America. It is also a national service program that, is operated by the federal agency AmeriCorps. And their primary focus is social justice and economic equity. So Homes for All does manage both of these programs. You all are in the AmeriCorps direct service program, so you guys are providing direct services to the individuals and families that your organizations serve. VISTA is a little bit more behind the scene. They do more capacity building, grant writing, fundraising, some of the things that direct service members cannot do, which we'll talk about a little later on when we get to our policies section. So AmeriCorps does have values that we like to talk about. So getting things done, that could be through a direct or demonstrable services, strengthening communities. So bringing together people of all different types of backgrounds to improve their communities, encouraging responsibility, and expanding opportunity. AmeriCorps does have a pledge. We will come back to this at the end of our training, and I will say it to get you guys what we call sworn in to your positions. So we will come back to this slide at the end so that I will say the pledge and then we'll end our training. I kind of mentioned this. AmeriCorps does have different branches, and we like to share this in case AmeriCorps is something new. It's a new program that you haven't heard of before. Working and being with your sites in different ways. But we mentioned state and national. That's direct service. That's the type of program that you guys are serving in this year. VISTA, we mentioned that as well because we also have a VISTA program. And then there's AmeriCorps NCCC. It is like team-based. They're like regional, teams across the U.S. And so they kind of get deployed to different areas in the U.S. to do. They could be doing, disaster services. They could be doing environmental services. They could be doing all kinds of sorts of things, but it is for individuals who are 18 to 21, I do believe. It might be 24. I can't remember. But yeah, so those are the three different branches of AmeriCorps. Here are some terms that we use when a person is serving in not just our program, but in any AmeriCorps program. The person serving is the member. So you guys are AmeriCorps members. So you're not a worker, you're not a volunteer, you're not a member or an employee, sorry. You are in this unique role that we refer to as an AmeriCorps member. Your service site is where you are serving, where you are doing your typical daily service tasks. That is the service site. So if you're at Paducah Alliance of Neighbors, that is your service site. It's not a job, it's not employment, and it's not a work site. And then the position description. That was one of the many documents that you guys signed before your position started. It looks a lot like a job description, but because this is not long-term employment, we call it a position description. And lastly, the living allowance. So the living allowance is what is deposited into your bank accounts on every other week, so every other Friday. It's not considered a salary or a wage or a stipend. It is considered a living allowance, again, because it is, a benefit to, committing to your term of service in our program. We do like to share that there are so many people that benefit from AmeriCorps. We all benefit from it. Youth, seniors, other vulnerable populations. These individuals are either getting, housing services or resources. They're getting, health services, mentoring and tutoring, and all other different types of services as well, just depending on what type of program the person is serving in. Communities all around and organizations, it's just kind of been proven that communities are stronger and healthier when there are people who are more engaged, and when there are AmeriCorps members serving in our communities, more services are able to be provided due to that increased capacity. And then members, people who are serving in programs across the U.S. You build your leadership and your career skills, and you also are earning money for college or to pay back student loans if you have that, and you're becoming, more civically minded. Here's some just like national service history, kind of like a timeline. So VISTA was actually the first AmeriCorps program created. At the time, it was not part of AmeriCorps, but that was created in 1965. After that, in 1973, AmeriCorps seniors were, that program was created. In 1992, NCCC was created to help respond to disaster or other critical needs across the U.S. And then in 1993, the federal agency AmeriCorps formed. And then that was when, and then a year after that was the first class of AmeriCorps members that served across the U.S. And that was about 20,000 members at that time. And then in 2012, FEMA Corps was created to help strengthen the nation's ability to respond to disasters. And then in 2016, we hit a really awesome benchmark of having 1 million members serve across the U.S. So that's pretty awesome. There are many different types of AmeriCorps programs. There are programs that focus on education. There are programs that focus on the environment, housing, and also health. So just some other facts about AmeriCorps. We already mentioned at this point, over 1 million individuals have served in a program. 1 billion hours have been served by members. $2.4 billion worth of education awards have been earned. 4 million volunteers and over 15,000 service sites at this point. In Kentucky, there have been 4,400 members. At this point, we're now looking at more since we are in a new program year. This was numbers and stats from 2021. 800 partner organizations or service sites. $4 million in education awards in 2021, and 250,000 members have served in our state. So those are some pretty awesome numbers to kind of give you a quick glance of, where we're at in Kentucky. This next slide explains what Serve Kentucky is. So Serve Kentucky is our state service commission. So they oversee the annual grant competition that awards funding to AmeriCorps Direct Service and other community service priorities. They do provide training and assistance to programs. They help support National Days of Service and just promote service and volunteering in our state as well. So that's a little bit about Serve Kentucky. If you ever see an email or hear us talk about Serve Kentucky on a monthly member call, that's kind of who we are referring to. Serve Kentucky also hosts an annual, they call it an annual AmeriCorps launch training. So that happened right before you all started. So that happened in October. And we, not just our program, but the other AmeriCorps programs in our state and members, we get together and they provide a professional development training. It's a good time to also meet just other AmeriCorps members that are serving in different programs and our programs, since we are statewide, and just network with individuals, learn about what others are doing across the state and other programs. It's always a lot of fun. I really enjoyed AmeriCorps launch training when I was a member, and so they do that in the fall. And so hopefully they will be offering an end of year training as well to members. The AmeriCorps logo. So the A in AmeriCorps does represent a lot of different things. It does represent national service, passion, empathy, and connection. It really does help us tell our story and how to deliver the mission of making a difference and strengthening communities. Raven, I know that you have served in an AmeriCorps program before this one, so the logo has changed. And every AmeriCorps program in the U.S., we use this logo now. This is the AmeriCorps logo for everyone. And then on the shirts that you guys will receive, you will have the HHCK logo with the House and the state of Kentucky with the AmeriCorps logo on the back. So we have to represent both. And so, yeah, they've kind of cleaned it up. AmeriCorps did like a training call with all programs to kind of give this update during COVID that, the logo was going to change, and they kind of broke it down and noticed and showed how there are just so many different logos for the same meaning. So that's why there's just this one AmeriCorps logo now. So, the AmeriCorps logo is meant to help show that instant recognition of what AmeriCorps is. A lot of people see it. I've been at the store like Tractor Supply, and people tell me that they either knew someone who served in a program or they served with Peace Corps. And so they've kind of heard about AmeriCorps, since that is kind of like the domestic version of Peace Corps. And so it is meant to help show like a sense of belonging and just promotes the unity and cohesion among members that are serving in so many different ways across the U.S. So AmeriCorps gear, we had to order more gear, but once all of that comes in, you will receive a t-shirt, a hoodie, lanyards, a journal, pins, stickers. If your site does not provide you with a name tag, let us know and we can order you one as well. You'll just need to send me a separate email. But we will get that all sent to you. I guess because of the holidays, things are a little bit delayed. But once we get all of that back in, we will mail your gear package to your site. So it will be, addressed to you. It will have your name on it, but we'll just send it to the site so that there's just like no confusion and everything like that. So you can pick it up when you're there. We, not just us, but something that we always share is how proud we are of AmeriCorps members. We know that AmeriCorps members are making a difference. You're serving your communities. AmeriCorps is a whole movement, and there's just so many things that are developing or that you are helping create or develop while you are serving with your sites during your term of service. Our little catchphrase is building homes, building opportunities, since we are, a housing service focused AmeriCorps program. Our sponsoring organization is the Homeless and Housing Coalition of Kentucky. That's where my office is. That's where Caitlin, our program director's office, is. HHCK's main office is in Frankfort, but HHCK is a statewide, or we serve a statewide. The only two counties that we do not serve are Fayette and Jefferson County. We have some remote staff down in Somerset and also in Paducah as well. So we're spread out a little bit. Some of the things that we do, we have supportive housing programs for people who are experiencing homelessness. Our director and other management staff provide advocacy and education as well. And then we have our two AmeriCorps programs, our AmeriCorps Direct State program and our AmeriCorps Vista program. So yeah, that's who, as you know, like when you get your living allowance, like your pay stubs, like that does come from our office. Here are the counties that we are currently in. While HHCK does not serve Jefferson, we do partner with organizations in Jefferson County and in Fayette County as well. So we are a little bit more focused in the central Kentucky area, but we do have, sites in Rowan, Boyd, Owsley, Perry, Bowling Green, Warren, Henderson, and also McCracken. So that also changes depending on what housing organizations apply to partner with our AmeriCorps program. We want you to make the most of your service. There will be opportunities for you to do things that you might not get to do again if you do move on to another career path or whatever happens next for you after your term of service. We hope that we are giving you some opportunities, or that you have some opportunities to work outside of your comfort zone. I know when I was a member, I definitely worked out of my comfort zone, and that helped me a lot. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have that experience. Sometimes it might, your schedule could be a little different. Just depending on what's going on. So sometimes it might not be a strict 9 to 5, sorry. But we do want you and respect your boundaries because that is so important to your self-care. So when we say that, that doesn't mean that we expect members to be on all the time. But some things happen that may need your attention a little bit after maybe your day ends. So we do, expect that those things be handled appropriately. And just ultimately, just like anything that you do in life, you get out what you put in. So we hope that you guys do take us up on these opportunities to come join us. We know that service is so important and so essential to our communities, and you really do play a huge part in that while you're serving in your positions. If you haven't noticed yet, there are people who are depending on you, and we say that not to add any type of pressure, but just to show how valued and important you are, not only to us and your organizations, but the types of services that you are providing, the people that you are serving, the people you are working with, if you're in their homes building, or if you're doing case management with them, or if you're doing housing searches with them. They do depend on you. And we just ask that you be present and that you give your best effort every day that you are serving. Okay. Some of the things that we just already talked about, we just ask that you be present on site or if you're with us. If you have any questions, of course, ask your site supervisor, ask us. We're always here. This is what we do. This is what me and Caitlin do every day. So ask questions. We don't know unless you bring it to our attention. And just, connecting with your community. If there are other members serving either at your site or locally, hopefully you can have those connections with them as well. Here is just some of our contact information. At this point, you guys have my email address. Caitlin Bottoms is our program director. If you ever need to get in touch with her, her email is cbottoms@hhck.org. Our phone numbers, that's our office number. My extension is 103. Caitlin's is 125. If you ever need my direct line, I can give that to you as well. It's also in my email signature. You're more than welcome to call it or text it. Some of the websites that you will be visiting while you're in service with us is the HHCK website. That's where we put all of our recorded monthly calls. That's where all of our forms and manuals and anything that we share with you all, we put it on our website under Homes for All AmeriCorps current member resources. America Learns, we're getting ready to hop right into America Learns. But that is the website that you will use to submit your timesheets to your supervisors. And then myamericorps.gov, you all had to create that profile to get cleared for service. You will visit that even after your term of service if you're looking and need to know like how much education award you were given, or if you've used some of it, if you're going to use, or if you're going to make a payment to a loan servicer, you're going to be going to myamericorps.gov. We do a whole training about student loans and using the education award at the end of the year. But just keep in mind, those are 3 websites that you will visit on a regular basis. And then Homes for All. So we send out monthly emails, and that always comes from the Homes for All email address. We also have a Facebook page. We have a Twitter and an Instagram. So we ask if you would like to, or if you are on social media, give us a follow. Share the things that we are posting on there. Most of the time it is sharing highlights of our AmeriCorps members' service years, what they're doing across the state. We also just share housing information as well. So give us a follow if you would like. Okay. Do you guys have any questions so far, or can we go right on into America Learns and how to use it for your timesheet?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go right on into America Learns. I think it's one of the not most important, but this is where you're going to submit timesheets. This is how you can, keep track of your hours as well. So I'm going to hop right into it. Again, if you have any questions, just unmute yourself and I'll answer them. So at this point, I made your all's accounts. If you did not receive an email from America Learn saying, hey, like set up, create your password to your account, let me know and I will resend it. This is the login page. So this is the website that you will go to submit your timesheets. It is www.americalearns.net/homes4all. Bookmark it. Whatever you need to do to keep it on your phone or computer or your service computer at your site. So this is where you will log in. This slide shows what the login page looks like. We have our program calendar. This screenshot was taken in August, so obviously it looks different. But if you see anything that says AmeriCorps, that's regarding your all's program. So like on every Monday on the calendar, it's reminding you to submit your timesheets to your supervisors. We do weekly timesheets, so you'll need to log in every Monday to submit your timesheet for the week before. If you see something that says both programs, that's regarding the program that you're serving in and also the VISTA program. If you see something that says VISTA, don't worry about it. You can also add this to your own calendar if you would like. Anytime we have like a monthly member call, you can go to this Google Calendar and it will have the Ring Central link if you just like hover over that event on the calendar. To log in, you'll use your email address and then whatever the password is that you created, and then you'll be logged into your account. This is what you will see when you first log in. There will, on the left side, like under the mission control, not all of those things will be on your account, but you will see the Homes for All news. So just reminders about some things that maybe are going on during that month. We do update it monthly. You will need to pay attention, like I said, to the program that you are serving in. And it is pulled from the Google Calendar as well. You will see your timesheet dashboard. And it's going to show you at the very top the timesheet period that you are currently in. You'll be able to hit the drop down arrow as your service term goes on. Next, or like below your timesheet period, is a little table under where you are. It's going to show you the remaining hours that you have left to complete and the amount of weeks left in the program year. So you all are 1,200 hour members. So at first, before you submit and timesheets are approved, it will say 200. And then every time you submit a timesheet and it's approved, those hours are going to then move to the box that says approved hours. So it's a good way to kind of keep up with how you are on your hours. Again, if you are serving though that set schedule that has been created between you and your supervisor on that weekly amount of hours, you should still stay in good standings to complete that 1,200 hour position 1,200 hours by July 31st of 2023. Pending hours will be below that box. So your supervisor will be the first person to approve your hours, and then our office goes in. We like to also look at hours because we get a timesheet audit from Serve Kentucky. So we like to keep track of member hours as well. We have to send in reports to Serve Kentucky. And so we just also like to look at hours as well. So if your supervisor or our office is still needing to look at your timesheets, it will stay under pending hours until it's approved by both. But I do that weekly. So as long as whenever I get that notification that your supervisor has approved your hours, I then go in and approve them. On the timesheet dashboard, you also will see a little section that says view submitted timesheets. So if you need to look at your approved timesheets, you have the ability to do that. If there are any still pending review from your supervisor, it will stay under the pending review. If you are working on a timesheet, it will stay under the submit timesheet. So some people go in at the end of each day and put their time in and their time out. And then they submit it that following Monday, but that's where those timesheets are going to show. And then lastly, the last section, if your timesheet is sent back to you from your supervisor or from our office, or if you ask us, hey, I need to correct something on my timesheet, we have the ability to send it back to you. And that is where that timesheet will stay until you make any changes that need to be made on it. So you would just click that blue hyperlink and go back into it and do whatever you need to. This is like the timesheet category. So I cut it off to show you, like, this is the HHCK test site, but yours was going to look very similar to this. It's going to have, the 7 days in each timesheet period, since we do weekly timesheets. And then it's going to show you the different types of categories. So as you get settled into your positions, like Wesley does construction. So like 90% of his time is going to go under the construction category. Carissa and Raven, most of your time will go under housing services. But as you can see, just depending on what type of position you are in, there are different categories that you will log time under. Capacity building activities can only be logged when it is listed on your position description. So if your position description doesn't allocate a percentage to capacity building activities, then there shouldn't be anything ever logged under capacity building activities. Anytime we are doing a training, you would log it under AmeriCorps training. If you are doing trainings with your site, those would obviously go under site-specific training. We'll talk about fundraising in a little bit. There are also the service categories of teleservice COVID and teleservice non-COVID. We know that COVID is still a thing. And so if you are serving, so say someone in your household that you're caring for has COVID, or you have COVID, but you still feel and are up for doing things from home. So if your site has tasks that you can work on from home and you feel well enough to do that, that's where you would mark that time. If you are on kind of a hybrid schedule, so maybe you serve in the office Tuesdays and Thursdays, and you serve from home on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, you would put that time under teleservice non-COVID. I hope that makes sense, but I don't want to get too ahead of myself. Those are just the different types of categories that you will see every day on your timesheet. You will need to put your time in and your time out before you can allocate any time under the service categories. So I put time in as 8 a.m., time out 4 p.m. For this one, I did 5.5 hours of AmeriCorps training and 2 hours of my typical daily services. That's how you would separate the time. You don't receive credit for a lunch break. Don't get too caught up on that. I'm sure your schedules are determined and already factor in taking a 30-minute lunch or an hour lunch, whatever your lunch break is. So, don't think too much into that. I do know some people serve through lunch. We don't want that to be like a habit. We want you to be able to take a break, debrief, from whatever you've worked on in the morning or whoever you've worked with during the morning, reset, eat, and get back to whatever you need to in the afternoon. So just make sure you're taking a lunch break. But you will have to put your time in and your time out before you can put any hours into the different categories on the timesheet. I already talked about it. Hours you won't receive for is like a lunch break. Again, your service schedules already factor in time so that you can take that lunch break. You have 2 different options for saving your time. So once you get done filling in your time for that day or that week, you can click save and continue completing your timesheet now. Again, like I mentioned, it's not required to click save at the end of each day. I always click save because you just never really know with computers or technology. So just click save if you want. And then there's an option too where you can save and continue completing your timesheet later. So that's where it would show up under that section that says submit your timesheet. That's where your timesheet will be until you submit it to your supervisor. You do have this option, this copy and paste option. So as maybe your days and you know that your hours need to go to the same service category, you have the option to click that copy and paste link, and it will pop up the days in your timesheet period. So you can put a little check mark in the box that same, 8 to 4, 7.5 hour day goes under housing services for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday and Friday of your day. So that does kind of speed up the process of submitting your timesheet. The next option on it is choosing I did not serve. So you would do that if, one of the following options from, the drop down box is why you didn't serve. So if it were a COVID-19 quarantine or sick day, so like if you contracted COVID or someone in your household did and you have to care for them and you cannot serve remotely and you just need that time to recover or help a child recover or whatever the case may be, you would click COVID-19. If that is the situation, you would need to contact our office as well to give us an update on what's going on. If there's a holiday, we're in holiday season right now. We observe certain, our winter holiday is coming up. You guys started the week of the Thanksgiving holiday as well. So if you did not serve on Thursday and Friday of last week, you would mark I did not serve and you choose holiday. And then for your weekend days, you will choose this option as well. So if your weekend is a typical Saturday and Sunday, then that's what you would put on Saturday and Sunday. If it's different, say you don't serve on Tuesdays and serve on Saturdays, then you would put your I did not serve and choose weekend for that Tuesday, since it is just a break. Then after you have completed your timesheet, at the very bottom, it's going to say totals for the period. So it's going to show you where the hours that you logged, which category they fall under. It's going to show how many hours you receive credit for that go towards that 1,200 hour requirement. So make sure that you review it, make sure all of those hours look right. And then you're going to electronically sign your name. It is case sensitive, so capital letters in your first and last name, and then you're going to submit it to your supervisor for approval. If anything comes up and you have a question about America Learns or submitting your timesheet or how to log time on your timesheet, you can give me a call. That's my direct line. So that's the number that you can either call or text. And then also my email address. So your sites have this information too if you need my contact information. And before I move on, have you all received that email from America Learns prompting you to create your password for your account?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I have, but it's got the wrong last name on there.
Okay. You do have the option to go in there and edit that information.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
you
I
can.
received
I'm sorry, Wes. Did you see it?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. All right. Good to go. Awesome. So yeah. All right. So, for last week, if you've kept up with your, if you wrote down, on a piece of paper or tracked it in your phone, the time that you served last week, you now have access to obviously submit that time in America Learns now for your supervisors to review. Do you guys need a break or anything before we move on?
I don't know about them, but I'm good.
I'm
Okay.
good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm ready to keep going.
All right. So the next thing we'll talk about is this, what we call the member development, and it is written into our AmeriCorps grant. Things change often, so just know this is very fluid. So the intention of the member development plan is to help develop and strengthen members into civically engaged individuals. And we hope that this can be done through just the exposure to injustice or other critical community needs. And why we say that is sometimes members, serve, maybe this is their first time, and they've maybe not had prior experience or firsthand experience or known about some of these critical community needs. And so the idea is to really help everyone bring the knowledge that you have and the experiences that you have, even after your service is over, to help continue to get things done, as AmeriCorps says, for the communities that you all live in and you all serve. And we say that because also in the AmeriCorps pledge, it says that, you are pledging to do this year and beyond. So there are 4 components of the member development: the point in time count, or the K count, or homeless service activity, the Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service Project, Spring Project, and the Public Awareness Project. And so I'll talk about these individually now. So the point in time count, or the K count, is a count that homeless service providers conduct and do on one night in the year. And it is to help understand homelessness in your community. And then also when all of that data is gathered to look at that statewide as well. It is typically done in January. So we're looking, I think HHCK is doing theirs on January 25th. You might be at an organization that is the lead for your service region's point in time count. So, whatever date you guys have worked on or know that you're going to be doing the K count, obviously that's when you would do it. We hope that all of our members get to participate. Sometimes that's not always the case. Some counties or communities do not participate in the K count. And if that is the case, then we can talk like one-on-one about that. So that is the point in time count. So Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service. We do not observe MLK Day as a federal holiday. That's like at the federal level. Every AmeriCorps member, program staff, we serve on MLK Day. And so I didn't update this. Crap. We are thinking about doing a program service project on this day. We're going to talk more about that actually on the 15th of December. So I'll just kind of briefly talk about it. On MLK Day, which is January 16th, our program will be going to, we're going to participate in the Freedom March in downtown Lexington. And then after that, following the program, we're going to do a service project together. We talked about it briefly on the November call on November 15th or 16th, but we're going to talk about it more in detail on the 15th and what we think that would look like. We invite all of our members across the state to join us. We will pay mileage. It is just a day project. There will be no overnight accommodation. So again, we'll talk about this. And if for some reason a person cannot participate, we would ask that they complete a project locally in their communities. Spring Service Project. This is super fun. We partner with one of our construction organizations. So the majority of our members in our program are doing like housing services, so case management, landlord outreach, street outreach, but we do have the construction part of our program as well. And so, like I mentioned, Wes is one of our construction members. And so COVID kind of struck this down for a while because of just, getting a large group of people together and just like being responsible. But we are hoping to do it again, either in late March, April time, whenever the weather breaks. And I know things can be a little different, but we will start planning that really soon, honestly, after the holidays of, where we're going to be, what part of the state we will be in. But we do get experience working on just different construction tasks. It really does depend on what organization we're partnering with and what type of projects they're working on. But it is so much fun, and we will send out more information after the holidays. And then the public awareness activity. This is the purpose of this is we are hoping that it is going to give everyone some experience in public speaking. We think that public speaking is a really great is just a really good skill to have, especially if you are doing like outreach, or going, to outreach events, or just talking to others in your community about AmeriCorps, or homelessness and just the lack of affordable housing in Kentucky. Ideally, this will be completed by the end of the program year, so July 31st. Some ideas that people have used or completed through like COVID, and before COVID, they've like created videos where they talk about their service here, and their sites have published it to their social media and their websites. Other members have presented to students at colleges or high schools, or met with other local community organizations or clubs to talk about these issues as well. So it's very fluid, but we want you to keep it on your radar. It will be something that needs to be done, and it could be something that maybe you've already done, or will be doing, or your site and your supervisor have asked you to represent their organization at an outreach event, or your organization is creating or going to schedule an outreach event or something. So it could be something that you do and don't even realize that it can count as this activity. There are goals and reflections. I'll send this out to you all individually. At the beginning of everyone's term of service, we asked for you to think about 2 personal or 2 professional goals that you would like to accomplish over your year of service. We want to be able to help you accomplish the goals while you are with us. Don't pay attention to it being open into America Learns. I will send it as a Google form to you. It's very brief, like maybe 2 questions. So just be thinking about that. You only do the goals form one time, but you will want to keep track of your goals that you've set for yourself, because we will be asking about them in quarterly reflections. If you've looked at your email yet, we sent out our December monthly email this morning, and there is a Google form that is linked in that email for the first quarter reflection. We ask that those be completed through that Google form. I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory. You'll just click what month or what quarter you are completing. And the next slide shows like the due dates and stuff, so I'm not going to talk about it right now. But I just also asked, it's just another way for us to communicate on anything that you've worked on, successes, challenges, anything you would like to share with us. It's just another way to communicate and just kind of get an update on like what's going on. We did fall site visits, so it is just kind of another way for us to check in and see how things are going. Like I mentioned, quarter 1, we asked that it be submitted in the Google form by December 15th. It's very short. Quarter 2, March 15th. Quarter 3, June 15th. And then there will be a final just end of year survey in July. So do you guys have any questions about that before we move on? Do you guys need to take a 5-minute break, 10-minute break? You guys just let me know how you're feeling.
I'm good.
Doing fine over here.
Okay.
All
right.
I'm still doing good.
Okay. All right. So we're going to move on into performance measure reporting. So performance measure reporting is a metric that we have to demonstrate the impact of our AmeriCorps program. So basically, we set a goal for our program to say, like, look, this is what we've accomplished. This is why our program is needed. This is why we need funding to keep, serving more people. It is not an attempt to reduce people to just a number or capture every single interaction that you've had with someone during your term of service, and it's not meant to be a lot of work. So just know that up front. That's not what our intentions are at all, but it is something that we have to report on to the feds. So basically, why are we reporting? We want to share about the services sharing about your service helps share the story of AmeriCorps and national service. So that is kind of the overall big picture of why we report, not only just our program, but every AmeriCorps program in the U.S. So who are we reporting to? So ourselves. So like you as the member are reporting to our program or for our program. Our site. So it demonstrates the value and importance of AmeriCorps and what it is doing. And that kind of leads on over into our community. So it is showing how AmeriCorps members and AmeriCorps services are making a difference in the communities and regions that you serve. And then our supporters, like I mentioned, we have to report to AmeriCorps at the federal level. AmeriCorps reports to Congress. So, ultimately we report to Serve Kentucky first. It gets reported to AmeriCorps, and then AmeriCorps reports it to Congress. So that's kind of how that rippling effect works. Our performance measures for our whole program is we are hoping that 2,500 individuals are served. That does not mean that you yourself are serving 2,500 individuals. It means our program as a whole. So members serving in Fayette County, Moorhead, Perry, Paducah, all of us together. And that is adults and children. And then of the 2,500 individuals served, we hope that 1,000 of those individuals are either obtain new housing, they transition into permanent housing, or they keep their housing. And then we have a volunteer component as well. Some positions work with volunteers, some positions don't. So that's totally fine too. But we hope that our program either recruits, trains, or manages, or a combination of all of those, 550 volunteers for the year. You don't have a set number that you have to reach, but we hope that you do not underreport. And we want you to report on substantial engagement. So if you just talk to a person randomly on the phone and you never work or hear from that person again, that's obviously not someone that you would report on. If it is someone that you are, it's part of your caseload, or it's someone that you're doing housing searches with, or someone that you are doing outreach with, you would report on that individual. And if you have any questions, like if you're not sure, just ask us and we'll be happy to clarify anything that we need to. But no matter what type of position you are in, everyone does report. So there's not, everyone in our program reports. So they're attached to the monthly email. But in my recap email that I will send out after we're done today, it will include the service forms as well that I'm talking about. In our in-person orientation, we did hand out the forms. They're located on our website. I attached them to every monthly email. So there are ways that you can get them. We can also mail you hard copies. We do not care one bit to mail hard copies to you if you need us to. But some of the data that is collected on the forms is very, I don't know, it's very confidential. Hold on just a second. Let me take a drink of water. So some general information that you will include on your forms, you will include your name, where you are serving. You're going to make a code name for your client. So if you already use a code of some sort to identify the households that you are working with or serving, you can use that same code name so that you're not having to think of or keep up with two different types of information. And then you're going to put the date services began. That's your relationship. So this person may have been working with your organization for a while. You are only going to put the date when maybe that person was put on your caseload or you started working with them or calling them. Okay, so not when your site started working with them, but when you started working with them or when you started working on their, rehab of their house, or, you build a ramp or whatever it might be. You are going to include you're not going to include the household documentation. You're going to just do a little brief check mark on what makes them eligible for services through the organizations that you're serving at. So again, it's only, we are focused on low income or zero income. That's typically what makes someone eligible for services. You're going to include the household information. When we ask for demographics, it is confidential and private. We want you to record the response from the individual. We do not want you to assume. So if they decide or decline that they want to provide that information, leave it blank. So again, don't ever assume. Record the response from the individual. And then you're going to include the types of services that you provided. So on the form, there are a bunch of different services to choose from. You'll just, put a check mark or an X on the types of services that you've provided. So it could be eviction prevention, if it's construction, if it's case management, those are just some of the things that are coming to mind. Some takeaways. We don't expect you to, you're going to just attempt to capture all of the information that you can. We hope that you do not wait until they're housed or done with services. That could be a lot to keep up with. And just remember that you are only reporting on the households or the individuals that you have a substantial relationship with. The bare minimum, you're going to make a code name, the start date, when you started working or serving the clients, the number of individuals and children in the household type, and the services provided. Like I mentioned, you can get this service forms from our website. I include it as an attachment to every monthly email. I'll send it as a recap as well, or we can mail them to you. So, a bunch of different ways to have the forms. So that part of the service form, I call it like step 1, and then step 2 is like the wrap-up form. So the information that's collected on the wrap-up form, again, is just very general information. So you're going to want to make sure that the code names, if this person is housed, you're going to make sure that the code names match, and then you're going to put the date the services ended. So you're going to mark the proof of housing. So if the person self-reports that they have found their own apartment or a unit, you would just mark that. certificate of occupancy, when construction is completed, if they receive a housing voucher and they move into their unit, or the lease or mortgage, or something else that your site uses to demonstrate that services are completed, you can write that in. There's a little other spot. So if there's a specific form that your organization uses, you can put that information on the other line. And then you're going to sign the wrap-up form, and your supervisor is going to sign off as well, to show that this information is accurate. Then you're going to email or take pictures. You're going to send the forms to me or Caitlin, but we'll get to that. Some takeaways for the wrap-up form: you're going to complete it again if construction is finished, the person moves into permanent housing. Even if they're still receiving services, you're going to put the date for when they moved into their permanent housing. If a rent or utility assistance was provided, well, that's considered eviction prevention. They get a housing voucher, they sign their lease, or a mortgage is obtained, like they've purchased a home, or whatever else it would mean to be housed. Example of that would be like case management to help with like housing stability, to help maintain their housing. What you're not going to use it for is when the household exits services before being housed. So if you provided some services to a person and then they just kind of go MIA and you don't hear from them anymore, you would do the first form. You would not complete a wrap-up form, because at some point you guys did have that substantial engagement and they did receive services with you at some point in your term of service. They just weren't housed, and we know that happens. We don't expect every person that you work with to be housed. If you need additional blank forms, we can mail them, but they are online as well. So volunteer reporting: if you work with volunteers, well, before I move on to volunteers, do you guys have any questions about like the service forms and when they're completed?
I'm good.
Okay. Well, I'll move on to volunteer forms. So if you work with volunteers as part of your position, you will do a monthly volunteer form as well. It is very brief. The general information is your name, your site, the month that you're reporting on. So, the month of November. And then you're going to make like a volunteer group name or ID. You're going to list the number of volunteers. You're going to write if it's reoccurring, or episodic. And then you're going to include the total number of hours served. So you would put, if there are 5 volunteers and they serve 6 hours each, you would just multiply 5 by 6, and you would get that total of 30 hours for that group. So if it's an individual, you can make up use their initials. We don't ever need a person's name. If it's a church group, you could, put whatever, Presbyterian church group or whatever. We don't ever need names. Some takeaways from the volunteer report. We want you to use the same volunteer group name or ID for like episodic. So if they come back, for reoccurring, make sure that we are avoiding duplication. So what that means is if you have like a monthly group that comes obviously monthly, you would only report those volunteers one time. So like at the end of your term of service. And then you would just update the number of hours served. We only want you to report on the volunteers that you train, recruit, manage to provide some type of housing or financial service. Again, it's only volunteers that you are working with. So yeah. We ask that reporting be submitted to us, to me or Caitlin. You can do that through email, text, whatever works, or you can mail them in the mail by the 15th of every month. So, I know you guys started towards the end of November. So if you have started serving or working with clients in a substantial way, you can report on them by December 15th. If you're working on a construction site, you would report that as well. Obviously if the construction's not completed yet, you would just complete a wrap-up form whenever it is, whatever month that might be. So just reach out to me. You can individually and let me know if you haven't started working with clients or construction, or you don't have anything to report on for November. Just let us know. And then we would assume, since December, it is a full month, December reporting would be due on January 15th. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I caught the tail end, but I was definitely chasing a streaker in my house. Will that be in our email at the end too?
Yes.
Okay.
So I kind of already mentioned this, road report, by the 15th of the month for the previous month. You can fill out the copies. We have PDF options, so you can type it in, you can scan it and email it, you can take pictures and text it, or you can mail it to the office at HHCK. So there are different ways to get the information to us, and then we take it over after that. So hopefully it's pretty seamless and painful process. And then lastly, what if I just don't report? We ask that you email us and let us know if you did not serve anyone new, or if no one was housed, or house any existing clients for that month. Just let us know. We don't think it should be happening consistently, but if there is a month where something is like that, we just need you to communicate that with us, because we don't know. Again, not reporting or not communicating with our office will lead to corrective action. It is part of your AmeriCorps service year, and it was agreed to do in your member service agreement in your position description. So just keep those things in mind. Again, just talk to us. Do you guys need to take a break before we go into policies and procedures? I think this is our last part.
I don't know if you can hear it, but the fire alarm is going off at Shelter of Hope right now. So, I don't know what's going on. So I have to leave and come back. I'm not going to leave the meeting, but I am going to go outside. Okay. And then I'll be right back.
Thank you for letting us know. I hope everything's okay.
Okay. No problem. Thank you. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Our apartment units keep setting them off.
Oh no. Yeah.
We
That
had
happened.
3 or 4 times last month that it went on.
Oh my goodness.
I believe
my
that's
goodness.
why we're
Maybe there
making
could.
the move with the electric stoves.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh man. Well, hopefully that gets figured out. I'm sure Chris is like, oh my gosh, and everyone that's there right now. Well, I'll go on and talk about policies and procedures. I do believe this is the last part of it. So we'll go ahead. Okay. Member service agreement. And this was part of your all's enrollment packet, but it does include the terms, conditions, and rules of serving as an AmeriCorps member. Like I mentioned, it was already signed and completed by you. Just understanding in that first paragraph of that member service agreement, it states that AmeriCorps is not employment. So if a person were to leave their position, unemployment compensation does not apply. Your member service agreement is in effect until from your start date through July 31st of 2023. That's when our program year ends. Our next program year starts on August 1st, right after it. So, this is only in effect while you are serving in your position. So it has your start date. I think all of you started on November 21st through July 31st of 2023. Member eligibility. You all are eligible to serve in an AmeriCorps program, and with our program, if you were not able to, we wouldn't be doing a member orientation right now. But these are just helpful things. If you know someone who wants to serve in an AmeriCorps position, it's just always helpful to know this information. I'm not going to go into it in detail. We've already went through the whole process with you. Just that big thing that can hold somebody up is that national service criminal history check, not based on like charges, but just the process of getting those getting those checks cleared, reviewed and cleared. So that can take a little bit longer, but we've already done all of that. So we're good to go. Your position description, again, this was something that it was one of the last things that you guys completed before you started. Your supervisors created your position description. It has all of the allowable service activities on there that you will be doing on a regular basis. So there are approved AmeriCorps activities just based on our grant and the type of services that we're providing. So that is why we have the certain language that we use, the certain types of services, because it's all applicable to our grant and what we say our members are going to be doing during their year. Terms of service, start date, end date. It lists the benefits, so your living allowance amount. It will be the base living allowance amount. If your living allowance is increased, there's a whole other form for that, which you all know that. And then 3 signatures: your signature, your supervisor's signature, and the program director, Caitlin's signature. I'm going to talk about unallowable activities now. So what we mean by unallowable is it's not technically prohibited, but it's not necessarily allowable. So what that means is if you volunteer at an animal shelter, that's awesome. It's not something that you can count towards your hour requirement for your position. Same with like a mission trip or the cooking meals for those experiencing food insecurity. If that's something that you do, like you are a regular volunteer for that, that is something that you are just doing on your own time. If you are doing it for a service project, so for MLK Day or a homeless service activity, that can be counted as hours. But if it's just something that you do regularly on your own time, or just, because you and a group of friends want to go do it, that can't be counted towards service. So in a nutshell, if it is an activity that's not on your position description, it needs to be approved by either Caitlin or myself. So what I mean by that is maybe your supervisor created your position, and once you got started, maybe things kind of changed. And so maybe you are doing a housing related activity or a support service activity that is allowable on our grant. It's just not on your position description. That's fine. We would just need you and your supervisor to contact us so that we can make sure it is an allowable activity within our grant, and we can add it to that position description. In terms of service, so you guys, we have 3 different types of hour requirements. We have 1,700, 1,200, and 900. It must be completed. So your 1,200 hour requirement must be completed in order for you to earn the education award or to be eligible to serve again if you choose to do so. That could be within our program. It could be in a different program. It could be in a different state. Schedule. Sorry, this says 37 and a half. Your all schedule is probably anywhere between 32 to 35 hours a week. That schedule is created and talked about and discussed between you and your supervisor. If you were to get off track with your hours, so maybe you need to serve more per week to catch up, where we do view your timesheets weekly, we stay on top of that so that we can, address the problem earlier rather than later, so that you're not having to do, like, I don't know, this is just an example, like 50 hours a week, because that is and can be very unmanageable, and we don't want that to happen to someone, because that's when burnout starts. And we ask that you submit your timesheets weekly, which we already talked about as well. There are some required participations. I know I talked about this too during like the member development part. Orientation, you guys are doing it right now. Thank you. Serve Kentucky, AmeriCorps launch, that's already passed. That was outside your term of service, so that's okay. Some of the days of service, like MLK Day, the Spring Service Project, and we will have an end of year training and celebration, usually at a state park. I really love our end of year training. It's just so nice to be together and, have structured time to train, but also some time to just have fun with each other and celebrate everything that you all have accomplished this year. Monthly trainings, they are on or around the 15th. So what I mean by that is we do a virtual monthly member call on the 15th of every month, unless the 15th falls on the weekend. So like November, the 15th was a Sunday, so we had it on Monday, November 16th. So we always include that in our monthly emails as well. So what I would take away from that is you cannot serve at your site instead of attending a training or doing deciding that you don't want to serve on one of our days of service or do a service project with us. You can't count hours. So just keep that in mind. Again, we are reasonable. You might need supporting documentation if something comes up on why you can't participate. And that is because we write in our grant that members are going to join and participate on these days with us. And if something comes up, our funders are going to ask, and we have to have that documentation. This I didn't update either. I'm so sorry. Personal leave for a 1,200 hour member, you've started your term of service with 7 sick days and 7 vacation days. Sick days can be used for physical or in your mental health. It can also be used, obviously, like if you have a doctor's appointment or another type of appointment. You would use that as a sick day. You log that on your timesheet by clicking that I did not serve, and then you would choose sick day or personal day. Vacation, you also have 7 vacation days. We ask that you schedule that in advance with your supervisor. Those days off do not count for any hours. It is just a day off. So it is like a 0. It's not like 7.5 hours are going to go towards your 1,200 hour requirement. But these days, your 7 sick and 7 vacation days are built into your service year, your terms of service, but they only work if you stay on track with your hours. So keep that in mind. That's why, you're serving between 32 to 35 hours a week so that you can also take some time off when needed. The holidays that we observe as well that are built into the your term of service: Labor Day, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving, our winter holidays, 4 days, Memorial Day, Juneteenth, and July 4th. The benefits besides child care assistance is the same for a 1,700 hour and 1,200 hour member. Your living allowance amount. If it's been increased, that amount. We can offer health insurance to 1,200 hour members as well. If you were to lose coverage at any point in your term of service, let us know, and we can add you to our plan so that you can have health care coverage during the remaining portion of your term of service. Child care assistance is not available for 1,200 hour members. Your education award, if you have loans that are not in forbearance, you can request to put them in forbearance through your MyAmeriCorps account. Same with interest payments and any other type of support services that you need, we can help. The next thing I'll talk about is standards of conduct. Basically, that is the overall expectation of a person serving in our program. Bare minimum expectations. We ask that you communicate with us. We ask that you're communicating with your supervisor. You're submitting your timesheets on a regular basis. You're completing your service forms, your performance measure reporting monthly. We ask that you're hopping onto our monthly training calls on the 15th of every month and following policies and procedures of AmeriCorps and policies and procedures at your site. There are some different levels of how we remedy when standards of conduct, or if there are any violations, and those are level 1, 2, and 3. Hold on. Okay. We're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about prohibited activities. So I touched on unallowable activities, which means, I don't need to go back into it. We already discussed it. Now we're going to go into prohibited activities. These are activities that you cannot be doing while you are serving hours toward your hour requirement or you are acting as an AmeriCorps member. I'm going to let you read this slide. You guys let me know when to move on. I'll just briefly talk out loud. A lot of these
I can't see no
things.
slides.
You don't see a slide?
No.
Oh,
I
okay.
haven't seen anything on your screen the whole time. So if you've shared it all, we haven't seen it.
Are you kidding me?
No,
No, I figured you were just going over the papers in the email, so I wasn't panicking.
me too.
Well, I'll send out this recording. Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me?
I say
Okay,
when you
hold on a
started
second,
talking
okay?
about the December 15, I pulled it up.
Hi guys, I just want to let you all know that I'm back and everything's okay.
Great. I'm glad everything's okay. Can you see this?
It's doing a loading screen, but it says you're trying. Oh, there it
Yeah,
is.
Are you kidding me? I did this at the beginning of the PowerPoint.
yeah. This is the first time I've seen anything.
Computers are not our friends. People are.
Right?
Yeah, I literally did the same thing that I just did. I should have asked. I'm sorry, guys. I just assumed because nobody said any, we were just.
I
Can
thought
you
you was
see
just
it
reading
now?
papers and stuff going over it.
Well, we have the recording too, so. Can you still see this though?
Well, now it's a black screen saying loading on my end.
It says that you minimize the window or have poor connection. And now we're back to the little squares with the names and the letters and pictures. I don't know what they're called.
The whole. Okay, hold on.
So there was one point that you just like cut off for like 2 minutes. So I figured you have bad service wherever you are.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
I'm at the office, so. Can you see it now?
Nope.
Oh
Mm-mm.
my God. Okay. Okay, so note, anytime we're doing any virtual, please let me know if you can see the screen because we always have a PowerPoint, okay?
All right. Well, now it's back up.
Yep, I
Okay.
can see
Well,
it.
we'll just leave it like this. That- okay. Anyway, so I was going over prohibited activities. If you all can you see the screen well enough to read what's on here? Or is it too small?
It's too small because I'm doing it on my phone.
I say on my computer I can read it, but anyone on a phone screen, it's showing your whole screen, not just the slide.
I
So
know.
it's kinda
Whenever I click share, it doesn't work for some reason. That's when you guys say you can't see the screen. So, okay. Well, I'll talk. So when a person is serving hours towards their hour requirement, there are prohibited activities that cannot be done while doing so. So if you are representing your site, AmeriCorps, Homes for All, these are activities that cannot count towards your service hours. A lot of this is about politics or religion. So attempting to influence legislation, organizing or engaging in protests, petitions, boycott strikes, impairing existing contracts for services or collective bargaining agreements, engaging in partisan political activities or other activities designed to influence the outcome of an election to any public office. And so, again, this is just while you are acting as an AmeriCorps member, serving, representing AmeriCorps Homes for All in the site that you're serving at. To continue that, other prohibited activities, participating in or endorsing any events or activities that are likely to include advocacy for or against political parties, political platforms, political candidates, or elected officials, engaging in religious instruction, conducting worship services, providing instruction as or a part of a program, or providing a direct benefit to a business organized for profit, a labor union, a partisan political organization. So on the flip side, let me see if there's more. Other activities that are prohibited, conducting a voter registration drive or using AmeriCorps funds to conduct a voter registration drive, providing abortion services or referrals to receive such services. So again, what we mean by that is while you are serving or acting in this role. You also cannot train, recruit, or manage volunteers to do the primary purpose of one or more of those activities. So in addition to the activities that I just talked about, some other prohibited activities are census activities, election or polling activities. And again, following that, you can't manage, train, or recruit any volunteers to do those activities as well. So I'm going to just list, I'm going to do like 2 scenarios and see, just to quiz you all on if you think this is prohibited, like if the person cannot do this or if they can do that. Okay. So I'll read it since Ring Central's not worked this whole time. Scenario 1. During her free time, an AmeriCorps member has been frequently sharing her political position regarding the upcoming election on Facebook. The member's Facebook profile photo shows her wearing the AmeriCorps service gear issued by her program at the beginning of the service year. Is that something that she could be doing? Yes or no?
No.
Yeah, you are correct. Because she is wearing her AmeriCorps gear in her profile, she is still representing AmeriCorps in her program, so that would be considered a prohibited activity. Scenario 2. After a series of tornadoes destroyed several small towns among the Mississippi River, a team of AmeriCorps members were deployed by the Federal AmeriCorps Agency to engage in disaster response. As part of the disaster response, several members were asked by a local pastor to recruit and manage volunteers who would provide spiritual counseling and prayer groups to the community to help citizens cope with the disaster. Is that a prohibited activity or not?
Prohibited. Brings in religion.
Yeah, you are correct. Good job. Okay. So some of the common issues that happen, and the Federal AmeriCorps Agency's biggest problem areas are it's being logged as AmeriCorps time, or they're wearing the logo or representing AmeriCorps. And again, the biggest concerns for people are politics and religion. So basically, if you are a very political or religious person, maybe you just don't identify as an AmeriCorps member, so that there's just no kind of like gray areas that could be crossed or blurred while you are serving in the program. So just keep in mind about these prohibited activities while you're serving. If you are engaging in something, you are, you're engaging or you're, doing a religious activity and you are just, I'm just Holly doing this on my own time, not wearing the AmeriCorps logo, not saying I serve as an AmeriCorps member, there's no issues. The next thing we'll kind of go into are like suspension from service. So there are policies that we have to follow to stay in compliance with AmeriCorps. So we must suspend a member when they are facing official charge of a violent felony or sale or distribution of a controlled substance if they are convicted of a possession of a controlled substance. We may suspend a member when they are charged with other misdemeanors or felonies or in violations of multiple level 1 standards or one level 2 standard of conduct. During a person's suspension from service, they would not receive a living allowance or any other benefit during their suspension time. They can be reinstated into the program if the individual is found not guilty or if the charge is dismissed on the first 2 suspension conditions of facing an official charge of a violent felony or sale or distribution of a controlled substance. An individual can be reinstated if they have been convicted of a first offense of a possession of a controlled substance, and the individual must have enrolled in a drug rehabilitation program. And the third would be if an individual has been convicted of more than one offense of the possession of a controlled substance, and the individual must have successfully completed a drug rehabilitation program. So those are just suspension from service. Those are the policies that we have to follow. Release from service. So there are 2 different ways that a person can be exited from the program. The first is for a compelling personal circumstance. What that means is if a person serving in our program has a serious injury or illness that makes completing their term impossible, this now includes pregnancy, then they could be released for a compelling personal circumstance. If there's been a serious injury, illness, or death of an immediate family member, and the member is needed to care for that family member or take over other duties of that family member, they could be released for compelling personal circumstance. If the person is drafted by the Armed Services of the United States, and then if there are some other circumstances that were to occur that would make it impossible or very difficult for the person to complete their term of service, we as the program could deem that circumstance to be compelling. So if a person, for example, if a person's service site were to close down and we couldn't find another service site, then that person could be released for a compelling personal circumstance. So what that means is there would be some documentation that would need to be provided to us, and at least 15% of the person's hours have to be served. That way a person could receive a prorated education award. So if 15% of the hours haven't been completed, the person would not be eligible for any portion of the education award. What is not compelling is if they enroll in a school into school, if they were to obtain employment, or if they're just not satisfied with the position or the program or the site. So those are things that would not be considered a compelling personal circumstance. The second type of release from service would be for cause. So what that means is a person can be exited for cause for the following reasons. If they elect to leave the program because they want to, or if they express that they have no intent to complete their service requirements or their term of service. So, not being able to serve that schedule that you've created with your supervisor. If there's a conviction of a felony or possession of a controlled substance, obvious pattern of misconduct or poor judgment, multiple level 1 or level 2 violations, or 1 level 3 violation, just a lot of gross violations of, standards of conduct. And if there's been any other like serious breach that would undermine the effectiveness of the program, the person would be released for cause. And what happens is all benefits would stop, and there would be no access to the educational board. The last thing we'll cover is fundraising and limitations. There are some examples of like allowable fundraising. Before I start talking about this, if you are being asked to do something fundraising related, please contact our office. If you submit a timesheet that has fundraising on it, and you haven't talked to us about what those fundraising activities are with me or Caitlin to make sure that it's allowed, we will pin the timesheet back. So just contact us ahead of time, so that, because we would hate for you to lose out on any hours, to go towards that 1,200 hour requirement. And it cannot be more than 10% of your hours. So it is a very small amount. But there are some examples of allowable fundraising. So securing supplies and equipment from the community to enable volunteers to help build houses for low-income individuals, securing financial resources from the community to assist in launching or expanding a program that provides social services to members of the community and is delivered in whole or in part through the members of a community-based organization, or seeking donations from alumni of the program for specific service projects being performed by current AmeriCorps members. What's not allowed is general fundraising efforts for the operating expenses or endowment of the organization, or writing a grant application to AmeriCorps. So take away from that, sometimes members are asked to participate at a fundraising event for their organizations that they're serving with. That's totally fine. You might be asked to table at that event or talk to people about the services that the site provides to the community. That's fine. We would consider that to be outreach, but at no point should people be giving money to you. So your sites know this very well. Your supervisors do too. But if there's any confusion, please ask us ahead of time, because we don't want you to miss out on hours. Lastly, like on your member service agreement, drug-free workplace, civil rights, our grievance procedures, dress code and AmeriCorps branding, voting, armed forces reserve, and jury duty. So if you are called to do jury duty, we encourage you to serve. And you can accrue normal service hours during that time. So that's pretty awesome. And you are able to keep the reimbursements for incidental expenses that are received. So dress code, again, that's, I don't know. I mean, it really is based on, having communication with your supervisors, what the site is expecting. Some days may be a little bit more relaxed than other days, and that's fine. We just ask that you follow whatever type of dress code your site and the position allows you to have. So that is all. I'm very sorry